There are so many preparations when you are launching your Amazon business. Have you decided which country you're going to launch into yet? Different marketplaces have vastly different characteristics and requirements. Today, we're going to be comparing launching in Amazon US, UK, and Australia, and what makes each of these marketplaces unique so you can decide which marketplace you should launch your Amazon business into. Welcome to ANZ Unlocked. I am Kimberly Locke, and today we are diving into the comparison of different English-speaking marketplaces on Amazon. Choosing the marketplace you launch into is just as important as picking your product, so you need to give it the careful consideration that it deserves. You need to make sure that you are matching the marketplace you launch into to your business's own unique needs and capabilities. And this is going to be different for every Amazon seller. So today we are going to be comparing Australia, the United States, and the United Kingdom on Amazon and what makes each of them different. We're going to go through the specific metrics that you would want to look for when you're making your product selection in those niches or matching the product you've selected to that marketplace. We're also going to address unique considerations for each of these marketplaces. And stick with me to the end because we are going to wrap up with my personal decision pathway for not only my product selection, but the market I'm going to launch that product into. The first market we're going to look at is the United States, arguably one of the largest markets in all of Amazon. We're going to take a look at the specific metrics that you would want to be looking for if you're deciding to pair your product or pick a product that you're going to launch into that marketplace. Let's take a look at price first. So when you're looking at a niche, you want to take a look at what the average sales price is for the niche. In the United States, you would want to go for something that's at least $25 on average. Personally, my products sell in the $35 to $45 range. Choosing a price that is high enough is really important because you need to make sure that you have enough profit margin and you need to have room to have advertising costs as well and still make a profit when you're finished. If you're selling a product that's $10 and it costs you $5 to get it, but it's going to cost you $1 for every click on advertising, you're quickly going to run out of profit margin. The next thing you want to take a look at is the demand for the product in the marketplace. Now, the demand is going to be determined by your search volume, and your search volume is going to be tied to a particular keyword, and different keywords are going to have different search volumes. You want to have a collection of 3 to 5 basic hero keywords that you're going to use to target. You'll have longer tail keywords that are much more specific that describe your product, but you want to have that 3 to 5 basic main keywords. And you want those keywords to have a search volume in the United States of at least 2,000 searches per month. The next thing you want to take a look at is evaluating your competition. And you typically take a look at the ratings for that, but there's more to it than just the ratings. I've said before, there really are not any niches left in the world that have high demand and super low competition. So what you want to look for is competition that maybe isn't doing as good a job as you are. You can also take a look and see that new competition is getting into page 1 and is being successful. Your starting point, though, would be those ratings. So in the US, you want to look for something that has less than potentially 1,000 average ratings per seller in the market. But like I said, it's really important that you see if you can get in and compete against the established competition that's there, even if they have more than 1,000 ratings. And you do this by jumping on Amazon and using the ZonGuru Chrome extension. You sort your results on the search results page by the ratings, and you look at the sellers that have the fewest ratings. I like to see at least a third to potentially half of the page having less than 500 ratings and are still making sales. So that tells me that there's room for someone who's brand new to get in and still make sales with low ratings. That's a niche. Even if the bestseller on the page has 2,000 ratings, I know that I can get in and compete against them because there's other sellers doing it on the page. The next thing you want to take a look at is the revenue. So I like to look in the US for a niche that's going to have an average monthly revenue of at least $10,000. And using the ZonGuru Chrome extension, I want that niche to have a combined niche score, that average of the rainbow on the Chrome extension, of over 55%. That over 55% tells me that there's potential in this niche, and I'm going to dive deeper using the other tools in the ZonGuru suite. Now, in the United States, there are some very specific, unique requirements that you need to have taken into consideration before you decide that's the marketplace you want to launch into. In the United States, branding is very important. So you need to make sure that you can establish a good brand and a brand experience for the customers, because that's one of the things they're going to be looking for. Your PPC costs are going to be higher. So you need to make sure that your product has that room, that profit margin, so you can afford to advertise not only on Amazon, but off of Amazon, driving that external traffic. The competition is going to be tougher in the US. It's an established marketplace. Sellers there are entrenched. But again, that doesn't mean that you can't bring something new and still compete against them. You just have to be aware that the competition is going to be the toughest in the United States. So sellers need to perform at their highest level. You really need to hone your skills and get in there and make sure that you're not leaving anything to chance. Now, in the US, because sales velocity is going to be higher, you need to have a higher capital investment. You'll notice that your launch budgets are going to be higher because you're going to have more sales, more turnover. So that's good. That's going to mean your revenue is going to be higher as well. So you're going to have more income, but you're going to need to invest more to get there. Now, jumping across the pond to the United Kingdom, this is a very similar marketplace to the US. I would look at the UK first, looking at the entire European market. I would go there before I went to any of the other countries. There are specific requirements you have to have for certain European countries that can make it really difficult to navigate. If I was looking to expand into the area of Europe, I would definitely be looking at the UK first, mostly because the language barrier is so much less. You're going to still have some differences compared to American English, but it's going to be a lot easier than trying to translate things into, say, Spanish or German or French. Because the UK has left the European Union, the prices are going to be in pounds, not euros. So when you're looking at your average sales price in the niche, you want it to be at least 20 pounds. You're going to have PPC requirements just like in the US, so you're going to need that price to be that high so you have that profit margin to allow for these advertising costs. When you're looking at demand in the UK, you want those root keywords to have a search volume of at least 1,500 each month. When you're looking at your competition, you want to look for ratings below 500 if possible. But again, you use the same strategy that I discussed previously for the US. You take a look at the niche and see, are there sellers that have few reviews that are getting sales, even if the top seller has higher reviews than that or higher ratings? When you look at the revenue potential in the UK, you want it to have an monthly average revenue of at least £5,000. And your niche score, you want it to be at least above 50% before you start looking further and looking at the product niche and the other tools for a deeper dive. The unique considerations for the UK are very similar to the US. You still need to establish branding experience does matter to the buyers in the UK. You are going to have higher PPC costs. Not necessarily higher than in the US, but they are going to be higher than in some of the other marketplaces. The competition is definitely tougher in the UK, and there are established sellers. So you want to make sure that you're using that technique I described where you're flipping the search results page and looking at those sellers with the lower ratings and make sure that there is room for you to compete against those entrenched sellers on the space. Again, you're going to need to present and perform at a very high level as a seller in the UK. Your income potential is going to be higher, but your investment is going to be higher also. So it's very, very much like the US. It's not necessarily an area that I would try and launch at the same time as the US, but it might be that second marketplace that I take my established products to for my first expansion. Now, there are some language considerations you need to make if you're launching in the UK. If you're American, there are going to be some spelling differences that you're going to need to pay attention to. You're going to need to make sure you're putting things into metric measurements. So millimeters and centimeters versus inches and feet. You're going to want to be using, grams and kilograms and milliliters versus pounds and ounces in the US. Some of your search volume research might be skewed if you're not using the correct search terms. Some items may be called something different in the UK versus the US, and you need to be aware of that. An example I've given previously is in America, if you're looking for thong, you're looking for underwear. But if you're in Australia, you're looking for flip-flops. So completely different terminology. Now, you do need to make sure that you are following all of the correct government requirements, and you might want to use an agency to help you with your business entity there and making sure that you're getting all of your VAT requirements, and that is the tax that is collected there, and you need to make sure that you're covering that appropriately. So it definitely would bode to have a professional on the ground that can handle that and guide you through those different requirements. Now let's take a look at Australia. And this is a marketplace that I am very familiar with. I have lived in Australia for 13 years, and so I know the differences between America and Australia very well. And I sell on both the US and the Australian marketplaces, so I'm familiar with the differences there too. Now, looking at the numbers when you're going to do your product research in the Australian marketplace, you still want to have a price that's around $25 or more. And this is going to be in Australian dollars. These are not US figures. So when you're on the Australian Amazon website, everything is going to be in Australian dollars. So you want to keep it around at least $25 for your average sales price, so you have that wiggle room on your profit margin. But you may or may not have PPC costs, because you may not even need to advertise depending on the niche you go to. Now, your search volume, you want your search volume to be at least 800. And again, you do want to make sure that you're finding the right keywords to describe your product in the way that the Australians would. And I'll just tell you, all in America, Australians do not put shrimp on the Barbie. That is not an Australian phrase. So make sure that you've got your keywords right when you're doing your search volume. And something like using ZonGuru's listing optimizer and bringing in your competitors into either the listing optimizer or the keywords on fire, you can see the keywords that your competition is using. So find those sellers that are doing pretty well in the niche in Australia and pop them into ZonGuru and see the keywords they're using. And that way you can make sure that you're getting the terminology right. Now, it's pretty easy to find niches in Australia that have low ratings. Australians aren't that comfortable or familiar with leaving reviews like Americans are. But you definitely want to look for those niches that have less than 500 average ratings. And again, still use that same technique that I mentioned before, where you flip it and look at the page and see, are there people selling on the page, making good sales each month that have those lower ratings on their listing. Now, looking at your revenue, it's going to be less than it would be in the US. So you want to have something that your average monthly revenue is only more than $5,000. So you're going to make less money in Australia, but you're going to need to invest less in Australia. Very much like the UK, you want your overall niche rating on your ZonGuru score to be over 50%. Now let's dive into some of those unique considerations. I've already mentioned a few of them, but let's go through them a little bit more methodically and make sure that we hit all of them for you. Okay, so some of the unique requirements for Australia. Branding is still important, but it's not as paramount as it is in the US. But I always believe branding is an important aspect of any Amazon business, so don't overlook it just because you're launching into Amazon Australia. Now, your PPC costs are going to be lower, and depending on the niche, you may not even need to advertise. The reason is some niches don't have sellers in Australia selling FBA yet. Now, you can find this out by a couple of different ways. First thing you want to do when you're on the search results page in Australia is tick the Ships from Australia box in the top left corner of Amazon. You also want to make sure that you're putting in an Australian postcode, and you can Google to find out a postcode to pop in so you're making sure you're getting the right search results. Next, using the ZonGuru Chrome extension, you can scroll down through the results there, and over to the right, you can see if a seller is FBA or FBM. Now, if they're FBM and you're FBA, you're going to get preferential treatment from Amazon. So you're going to be placed ahead of them without advertising. So if you don't have sellers in Australia selling FBA and you're one of the first, you're going to be right there at the top of the search results without advertising. Now, I still recommend advertising when you're starting out, though, because using those exact match campaigns are going to teach the algorithm what your product is. So if it's a brand new product launching into Australia and you don't have a track record, say in America, then you definitely want to advertise. But again, your costs are going to be less for advertising in Australia. So that's going to give you more wiggle room on your profit margin. So your competition is going to be a lot more sparse in Australia. Like I said, you might find more FBM sellers and you might find more international sellers. When you go to a search results page, another thing that you might find is if you've searched for car cover and you start seeing things that are like the dog car seat covers that you put in your car for your dog to sit in, or steering wheel covers. You're finding products that are related but aren't exactly what you search for. That's because Amazon doesn't have enough sellers in Australia yet selling that product. That's an amazing opportunity, and that is still happening. Another thing that is unique to the Australian marketplace, because it is still an emerging marketplace, is that you can jump into a macro niche, something that you probably couldn't sell in America. For example, yoga mats. I mentioned it before. Yoga mats would cost hundreds of thousands of dollars to launch and be successful in the US marketplace because there is so much competition and so much sales velocity. But if you look at Australia, there aren't that many sellers selling yoga mats yet. And if you get very specific in something very differentiated, you can jump into this macro niche in Australia and win because it's still an emerging marketplace. Your capital investment is going to be lower because your sales velocity is going to be lower. You're not going to be selling as many units each month, so you're not going to need to invest in as much inventory. This does mean you're not going to make as much money right off the bat, but it makes Australia a great place to start with a product idea that you have that you possibly couldn't compete on in the US, but that you can compete on in Australia, and get in, learn the system and learn how it works and start making an income, and then grow your business into a larger marketplace like the US or the UK. Now, much like the UK, there are specific government taxes you need to make sure that you're registered for. In Australia, we call it GST. So again, you'll need someone on the ground that can help you with those requirements and making sure you're properly registered with the Australian Tax Office. So what next? What are the specifics that you need to consider and evaluate about your business before you decide which one of these marketplaces is best for you. You need to consider what your business goals are. Are you looking for income creation or asset creation? So are you wanting to generate a recurring income from your business, or are you wanting to just reinvest in your business and build it up to build it to an asset that you can sell? What are your revenue and profit goals? How much do you need to sell, and how much do you need to earn to accomplish the goals that you have? And what is the time limit on your goals? If you're playing the long game and looking at, 5 years or more, definitely you could start out in Australia, learn, build up your brand, branch it out into other marketplaces and grow it over that kind of time frame. Next, you need to consider your capital. What kind of capital do you have to invest? How much can you afford to invest? And are you going to have the funding available to grow to meet your goals? If you want to create a 7-figure business, you're going to need, I would say, at least 6 to 10 good selling SKUs to meet that goal. So are you going to be able to have the funds available after you launch your first product to launch your next product, and then your third, and then your fourth, and then your fifth, and so on? Are you going to have that kind of funding available? Now, if you don't have the capital resources yourself, there are lots of funding avenues out there for you. But then you need to consider, if you're going to have to go down the path of being funded somehow, where do you establish your business entity? Because some of the funding resources that are out there are only available to an LLC, or a corporation that is created in the United States. They're not available to something like my business, which is a proprietary limited, or PTY Ltd, created in Australia. So you need to consider that before you actually establish your business entity. The next factor you need to think about are your own creative skills. What are your unique skills that you bring to your business that no one else has? Do you have specific creative ideas and talents that you can apply to your business? And do you have the potential to patent the products that you're creating? These different factors are going to go into your capabilities, and you need to consider that, as well as the financial capabilities, when you're making the decision for which marketplace to go to. Being able to patent a product in the US market is very valuable and may not be necessary in Australia, although it would still be valuable, but it might not be as much needed. In going into the US, it can really give you a foundation to build on. I hope this has really been valuable, but don't leave. We are not finished. We are going to now dive in to my decision pathway and the steps that I take and the boxes I tick as I'm making my choices for products and marketplaces. Now, I will evaluate and go through this process for each product, because I may not launch the same products in the US as I launch in Australia. Now, I started my business in the United States, and I have 3 products that I'm selling there. I only brought 2 of them to Australia. I looked at the market and realized that one of them probably wasn't going to make many sales, and so I didn't bring it. Okay, so the evaluation steps, one by one. Step 1, determine my financial capability. What do I have that I can invest financially into this product? Step 2, like I mentioned before, what are my financial goals for this product? What am I wanting to accomplish with it? I might have one product that I want to reach $50,000 a month in revenue for, and I might have another product that I only want it to reach $10,000. That's my goal, and if I reach that, then I'm satisfied. If it goes more, great, but that's going to help me determine the capital investment that I'm going to need to make. It has to match my goals, so the financial capability and the financial goals go hand in hand. Next, I'm going to look at my product ideas. The first thing is I want to make sure that I understand the niche. I think it's really valuable, especially when you're starting out, that you look at a product niche that is something you really understand. For me, my product niche, I am my avatar, so I understand it inside and out. I know where my customer is going to hang out because it's where I hang out. I know the language that I use around this product because I am my own customer. So understanding the niche is pivotal. Next, does it have gas factor? Does the customer avatar really care about this product? Is it really solving a pain point, or is it really making their life better? It's not just an average product that's nice, but nothing that they're going to rave about. You want your customers raving about your products. And next, I determine, can I differentiate the product? Can I improve it? Can I differentiate it in a way that makes it better? Not just a color change. I need to improve upon it. That way it really stands out on page 1 and really grabs the attention of my customer avatar. Next, I'm going to start looking at the market and I'm going to evaluate the demand. So once I know the demand, then I need to look back at those financial capabilities I established previously, and can I afford to launch this product in this marketplace? If I can't, could I afford to launch it in a different marketplace? At the same time, I'm looking to see, am I going to make enough money off of this product to make it worth my time? Is the revenue there? Is the profit margin there? Am I going to have that ROI of well over 100%? So not only can I buy the product, package the product, ship the product, advertise for the product, and have money left over enough so that I can do that all over again. If I can't do that, it's not going to be sustainable. So why would I throw money at something that's not going to be sustainable long term? Now, you may not be able to generate well above 100% ROI on your first order. But if you're close to it, and then you know as you dial things in and things really get going, you can improve that, then you should take a look at it and see, can I risk that kind of financial investment? Next, I want to know, can I outperform the competition? Like I said before, it's not going to be a niche where there is no competition or super low competition, but is there competition there that maybe isn't doing a good job? Are they maybe not good at Amazon? Can I get in and be better than them? Is this product brandable? Can it fit into my existing brand, or can I start a new brand around this product? That's especially important if I'm going into the US or the UK. But like I've said, I think it's a foundation and a requirement for Amazon businesses, no matter what marketplace you're going into going forward. Is it a seasonal product or is it oversized? And make sure you're checking your packaging sizes very, very well. I have a product that went over the smallest side on the packaging by 0.03. So Amazon US, even though I requested remeasurements and my measurement was 7.8, they measured it at 8.03, and 8 was the maximum number of inches on the side of that product. That jumped this product into the oversized category, and it cost me an additional $4 per unit to fulfill it because of this. So make sure that you're taking that into consideration when you're doing your profit margin calculations. If it's oversized, what's it going to cost to fulfill it, and make sure that all the numbers still bear out. And is it seasonal? I'm not a fan of seasonal products, but that doesn't mean you can't be successful with seasonal products. A lot of sellers are going to put that into the too hard basket and not tackle those type of products. But you could develop a suite of products that are summer products and winter products, so you always have something selling, and just make sure that you're getting your timings lined up, and you could still get in and win with a seasonal product. You just need to be aware of its seasonality and make sure that you're prepared for it. Now, does the product have any special regulatory requirements? And that's going to vary from country to country. So you want to make sure that any of those requirements, if they're specially needed, are going to be able to be met. And if you can avoid things that have certain specialty requirements, like some children's products can be very difficult to get approvals for, or can be very risky and increase your liability insurance requirements. These are all things you need to factor in before you're making the decision to move forward. And it's going to vary from marketplace to marketplace. So you need to do the research on that. There are companies that can help you with your compliance requirements and making sure you're getting those needs met. And I'll drop a link to one of them in the comments below and in the description below, so you can check them out if needed. Again, that can be a barrier to some sellers, but an experienced seller might look at that and say, that's all right. That's a hurdle I'm willing to jump, and I can get in there where there are probably not as many sellers because people don't want to jump those hurdles. Again, that's going to vary from business to business. You need to know what your appetite for that type of risk and requirement is. So once I've gone through all of those steps and I'm happy, then I start reaching out to suppliers and start my sampling process. So that is my step-by-step process on how I evaluate marketplaces and products and make sure that they mesh together properly and that I'm going to be launching the product in the right marketplace. I hope this has provided value for you, and if it has and you want to know more, drop a comment down below and let me know, and I will get you a copy of my decision pathway so you can use it in your own Amazon business. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe and ring the bell so you get notified of upcoming videos like this one.